Honestly, the more you have a conversation with customers, the more customers you speak to, you're going to iron out your differences. Now, does it take you a year, or does it take you 10 years, or does it take you 30 years to get to the point where you're finally having a really comfortable conversation?
You said something, and I remember I was going in to meet with a client, and there was half the team was new, and half the team was kind of an older school sales team. And I was trying to think of how to summarize to them, like, what's your objective in a sales call? And this thing hit me. It seemed to be so simple, and it was like, let's make all the unknown factors known. Because if you know all the factors on how someone's going to make some kind of decision, right? And what the factors are, what's driving it, how much budget they have, and who's going to have some say, and the who, what, why, where, when, and all that. If you had all that known, it's really pretty easy to communicate with someone and actually get them to do business or transaction with you, right? So the process of sales communication is making all the unknown known. Yeah. Right? It's a very simple concept, but so powerful way to think about.
Making the unknown known and finding an easier way to talk about it.
Yes.
And so, in our theme and I've always, I think what I've personally enjoyed about the work that we do is making the conversation easier for people to have. Yeah. Because for so many people, there's so many difficult conversations in life. And if they're, nervous about having the conversation in the first place, the odds of it sounding normal and being productive and mutually, beneficial is pretty slim. So I think that's one of the gifts that we can give people, and in improving their communication and making it easier for both parties, right? Both.
Let's stay there. I think you're hitting on something really important. So what is it? If I'm a salesperson and I'm out there and I'm trying to get people to like me and I want to sell to them, or I want to communicate with them, I want to make the unknown known, and I want to seek first to understand, and they're nervous about communication and conflict, what are factors in that? What helps them making these conversations easier, or making it easier to talk about some of those things? What do you see?
Chop wood, carry water, because honestly, the more you have a conversation with customers, the more customers you speak to, you're going to iron out your differences. Now, does it take you a year, or does it take you 10 years, or does it take you 30 years to get to the point where you're finally having a really comfortable conversation? And I'll tell you what, if you're only having one sales call a week, it's going to take you a long time at that rate.
Yes, it is.
If you're having at least 5 sales calls, maybe 10 sales calls a week, you're probably going to accelerate your growth and have 10 years of growth in a year. So I always come back to that activity piece, from a pure, self-evaluation. Hopefully you're recording some of what you say. I'm imagining at some point you and I will listen to this or watch this and think, oh, that was funny, or that was silly, or whatever. Grammatically incorrect. I'm going to imagine we've got a few snafus. That's how we ended up in sales, not because we were A students. Yeah, at least for myself. But there was one other thing I wanted to. So I think the repetition and the willingness to look at it certainly is going to make things better. And hopefully, again, coming back to some of our themes earlier about having mentors, mentors that you could count on, you can bounce ideas off of, you can take along on a sales call that would have observations.
Yeah, there's a couple of things, as you say, that just popped into my head. I wrote them down so I would capture them. I actually think it's how we look at conflict, right? We tend to look at conflict as a bad thing, but I actually think conflict, if we lean into conflict, we're communicating. And we just see it from different point of views. And conflict creates alignment, which is what the first thing we talked about on the front end, which is, creating alignment. And it doesn't have to be in a bad way. Something that I learned from you did so well is you shared is, if you think it or feel it, say it politely and say it from their point of view. That creates amazing alignment, right? And I also thought about this concept when you were talking, which is a lot of people are out there trying to sell from an old point of view, which is, I want people to like me. I
Yeah.
want people to like me. And that's kind of an old school 50s, 60s, 70s technique.
Sure.
And if people like me, then I'm never going to have a conversation about conflict.
The tough
And
stuff.
I think you said something about like the good thing to do is always the right thing, but we have to transition to respect, right? From like to respect. And those are all components in how to have those conversations and be real and authentic and genuine and humble and curious and direct, but be assertive, but not aggressive, right? Those are all fit together in that whole equation.
Again, nuanced pieces that we have to work out over time, right? That there's a fine line between being assertive and aggressive, right? And assertive, totally appropriate. Aggressive probably doesn't belong in a conversation. It's not going to have the same kind of reaction. And no doubt, I've always felt like, yes, the hard thing to do and the right thing to do are normally the same. And so if it feels difficult to do, it's probably the right thing to do. And you just got to lean into it and learn from it, right?